I care deeply about a culture that would look at me and has looked at me and sees a foreigner. I don't know what to tell you. It works for me. Here are the 3 reasons that I care about Italian culture in Italy and in the world. Number 1, it has created so many aspects of my life and my culture. Number 2, I have a passion of diving deeper into the culture to connect more with it. The language, the food, traveling, history, etc. And number 3, I would like other people to feel this passion and connection like I do, or at least to connect with the people that already do. So to start with number 1, when I look at my life as a whole, my identity as an Italian American has created a lot of my life experiences, my values, and honestly just what I like as a person. When I go to Italy, of course I'm not Italian. I didn't grow up there. Italian isn't my native language. And to a lot of people in Italy, I'm just American. Other ones accept me as a paisan or a paisano. However, that is not always the case. Frankly, I don't care. I know who I am and I don't need somebody else to tell me whether I'm this or whether I'm that. I'm comfortable with where I stand on who I am and what I believe in. So that's never really a problem in itself. It is funny to hear people's opinions and how they see things, because I always think perspective is important to understand why people think the way that they do. But a lot of people don't know my life story. A lot of people don't understand the Italian culture outside of Italy. I'm obviously here to bring that to the world and to show not just what's the Italian culture in the US, but what it also is in Canada or Brazil, Argentina, Australia, any of these places that the Italian culture has kind of put its roots in the ground and has really, sprouted up into this really strong tree of culture in a lot of different places, cities, regions of the world. And for me, growing up in an Italian American family and with the traditions and the values and the stories and the history that I had within my family always made me feel a connection to Italy. I remember my first trip going to Italy when I was about 10 years old, and it was definitely awakening because I'd always felt like I was Italian growing up. I mean, for people in the diaspora, you know how it is. A lot of times you're the Italian kid, the token Italian kid, or that's what people look at you and your family as, especially given the fact that my parents grew up in a very ethnically Italian American area. So that kind of becomes part of your identity. And it was also something that I was taught to be proud of in my house. So mix that with kind of the way that I was treated by my community, which wasn't any bad treatment. It just was clearly this kind of connection to being Italian in their eyes, what they saw as Italian, and then getting to go to Italy and seeing what Italy, modern Italy is in that period was obviously as a kid a little bit surprising, but also was super cool. It was an amazing trip. And from there, having visited Italy multiple more times and having studied there and continuing to learn more and more about my family and connecting more and more with my roots, learning the language and adding in all these different aspects leads me into point 2, which is what I really love too, is going deeper as I've gotten older into a lot of the aspects of my culture. Like, I think one of the biggest questions, especially for people in early adulthood, a lot of times, especially like myself, when you move away from home and you don't live necessarily super close to family anymore and you don't see them all the time, you start to kind of figure out what your habits and tendencies are, positives and negatives and whatever else. And you start to, if you really think about it, like I'm sure a lot of people do, why do you do things the way that you do? Now, obviously there's a lot of different aspects, whether it's where you grew up, it's the language you spoke, it's the schools you went to, it's the friends you had, it's the family you had, whatever. But I started to notice as I got older and older, just a lot of the characteristics, behaviors, things that I had that I felt were very tied to this Italian American culture, but also Italian culture. And when I visit a place like Italy, I feel more connected than I feel a lot of other places, because there's not as much explaining to be done, because I understand, I went deeper into modern Italian culture, and also just from the background that I have, which I feel like already connects me quite a bit. Kind of fusing those two together, my life and my experiences, and then also the the aspect of going deeper, learning the language, learning more about different aspects of history, different regionalities in the country, foods, etc. I think having that kind of academic understanding, experiential in Italy and experiential of growing up an Italian descendant outside of Italy, I think mixing that all together is so cool. And that's what makes everything like that I do so exciting on the day to day, because I love seeing that impact, not just on myself, but also on others, because everyone's story is different based on where they went or their family or the time period of immigration and whatever. So it's really cool to kind of see some of the patterns and some of the different stories that you can find in our diaspora. Which leads me into my point 3, that, you know, I've always been here since the start, just trying to bring education, information, connectedness to our Italian diaspora, especially, you know, online, obviously, but also in person, because this is something I'm super passionate about. I think community is extremely important, especially a community like ours that is very strong, that is very stubborn sometimes, but sometimes in a good way, where we maintain traditions. And the reason why I'm even here talking about this stuff is because our culture through the generations has been able to maintain so many aspects of it, even in completely different countries with completely different cultures. So I really hope that anyone who is trying to find their why that has Italian roots maybe can, through some of my content or other content that they see, or in-person events or clubs, they can kind of start to understand themselves better. And then obviously there's always going to be people of Italian descent that their family for multiple generations has been outside of Italy and they don't care anymore. And that's fine. Everyone has their own prerogative, but for the people especially that have that inkling or that are already passionate about it, that's what I really enjoy about this too, because that's also what I'm doing it for. It's to hear the cool stories that people send me on Instagram or talk to me about in real life. It's just that lights the fire to keep me going and to keep me caring, even if I walk into the country of Italy in a lot of cities and I'm always just seen as an American and I'm always just seen as something different. That doesn't really matter to me, because like I said, I know who I am and I know what my experiences are, and I kind of have an understanding of a lot of angles of it. I'll never understand everything. I'll never understand every perspective, but you know, it's always my goal to continue to understand more and more perspectives and more stories from the Italian culture in the world and share them with you guys. So again, even though a culture that I really care about, you know, within Italy and the Italian culture in the world may see me as a foreigner, may not see me as part of their culture, I don't really care that much about that. I care more about the experiences and the aspects of the culture that I've maintained and my family has maintained through the generations. I care about diving deeper into the culture, whether it's the language or the history or the regionalities of the country. And I like pushing people to connect with their heritage, or connecting with people that are really in tune with it already and hearing their stories. Those are the 3 reasons that I truly care, and why the Italian culture, whether in Italy, modern Italy, or sometimes our time capsuled culture outside, or kind of mixed or adapted culture outside, are of the utmost interest to me and what I nerd out about, and why I'm here talking to you today. So if you like content like this, more kind of off the script, opinionated experience, not necessarily research driven, let me know in the comments below, because I'm more than happy to do a lot of content like this. These are thoughts going through my head all day. If you enjoy hearing about the Italian culture, not just in modern Italy, or not just in the history of Italy, but also the history and the modern day of the Italian diaspora, then Odiundi is for you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Ciao for now, e alla prossima.